Mom's words hung in the room like a knife pressed right up against my throat, sharp enough that even the air felt dangerous. Christmas dinner was supposed to be warm and bright, the kind of evening where the glow of the lights softened everyone's rough edges. But instead it felt like the walls were listening. Crystal glasses clinked with polite noise, people forced smiles, and then like she'd been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, my mom looked straight at me and said, "You're the most useless child we have." The whole room froze. Forks hovered midair. Chairs creaked as heads slowly turned toward me, and I felt like I was suddenly trapped under a spotlight, pinned down and examined like something on display instead of someone who belonged at the table. I stood up slowly, too calmly, the kind of calm that feels like it's holding something back. And when I said, "Then stop calling me when you need money," her whole face collapsed inward. For the first time in my entire life, she looked small, not because she actually was, but because the truth had finally peeled away the armor she always wore. Everyone around us went silent, as if even breathing would make the moment crack open. They thought that line was my punchback, the end of it all. But they didn't know it was just a closing note to a story that had been written long before any of them picked up their forks. The real beginning lived years earlier, hidden in moments that felt harmless at the time. Betrayal never starts with the knife. It starts the day you trust the hand that will someday hold it. When I was growing up, I mixed up duty and love, thinking they were the same thing. I mistook being controlled for being guided. Thought survival was what family was supposed to feel like. My mom had a gift. She only praised me when I hurt myself to help her. When I bent until something inside me cracked a little further, I didn't see any of it as wrong, not at first. Kids aren't wired that way. They accept what they live in. She shaped me into the dependable one, the fixer, the child she always said she could count on, the one who owed her for everything, including my own existence. She'd tell people, "This one will save us," and I thought it meant she loved me more. I didn't realize she was treating me like inventory, like some emergency fund she didn't have to earn. Things started unraveling 3 winters ago during endless hospital visits, constant bills, and emergencies that always appeared right when my paycheck hit. But the crack I couldn't ignore showed up the day a nurse handed me the wrong envelope. Inside weren't tests or treatments, just casino receipts, luxury shopping bags listed out in detail, and transfers to my brother with the note, "Keep quiet." He couldn't even look at me that night at the kitchen table. Guilt sat on him heavier than the chair he was sinking into. Mom told me, "You wouldn't help unless it sounded serious," and the floor shifted under me. It wasn't the lie itself that broke something, it was realizing her whole pattern had been built out of lies. Every tear she shed had been a form of currency. Every plea she sent my way had been a transaction waiting to happen. Every "you're such a good child" had been a hook meant to keep me tied to her. That's when I understood I hadn't been loved. I had only been used, shaped, and drained by someone who knew exactly how to get what she wanted. And when that truth landed, something inside me snapped cleanly, almost quietly, like a bone breaking underwater. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her the way people imagine victims do when they finally break free. I didn't collapse into my bed and cry like some heartbroken kid. Instead, I went completely still, so still it felt like the world around me was moving at a different speed. Stillness is something predators always misread. They see it as weakness, as surrender. But stillness is actually planning, building, shaping. I spent months pulling apart every thread of the life she had tangled around me. Months tracing every transfer I'd ever sent her, every bill I had covered, every emergency that drained me a little more each year. I met with a lawyer quietly, collected documents quietly, and kept smiling in front of her as if I still believed every word she said. Eventually, I stopped sending money, but only after arranging for automatic statements to be mailed to her, each one listing, line by line, every payment I had ever made for her. My mother hated to things, being exposed and owing anyone anything. I made sure she experienced both, slowly and deliberately. The statements stacked up like snowdrifts at her door. Then came the formal repayment demand from my lawyer, listing the funds she took under false emergencies. She didn't answer. Instead, she waited for a public scene where she could pull the spotlight back onto herself. Christmas dinner became her stage, her chance to humiliate me enough that I'd fall back into line. She never realized I had been sharpening myself for that exact moment. She expected me to fold when she called me useless. She never expected me to stand up, look her straight in the eye and say, "Then stop calling me when you need money." The room tightened like a rope pulled too far. Her mouth opened and closed without sound, like she was gasping for air in front of her own audience. I reached into my coat and placed an envelope beside her plate, right next to the untouched food. Her hand trembled when she opened it. Inside were copies of the statements, the repayment demand, the proof of her gambling, the fake emergencies, everything she'd hoped would stay hidden. My siblings leaned in slowly, their faces breaking apart as they read. My sister whispered, "Mom, what did you do?" while my brother pushed his chair back like he needed space just to breathe. Mom's voice shattered into pieces as she said, "This is exaggerated." But I tilted my head and answered softly, "The numbers are exact. You're the one who taught me to keep receipts." Her lips shook. That was the moment the power shifted forever, not because I exposed her, but because she finally understood that I wasn't playing her game anymore. Without my participation, her control simply vanished. I walked out first. The winter air outside hit me like a baptism, cold and clean, washing off fears I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. Behind me, voices rose, questions, accusations, panic, but none of it touched me. I had finally stepped out of the script she spent my whole life writing for me. People talk about revenge like it's fire, wild and destructive, but mine was ice, steady, sharp, and deliberate. And when the door clicked shut behind me, one truth settled over me with absolute clarity. I was never the useless child. I was the one she underestimated, and that was a mistake she would never recover from. If this story made you feel something, drop a like. Comment "I choose myself" if you believe in self-worth over validation. Hit subscribe for more stories that remind you how powerful you really are.